Hey everyone, I took the Management Information Systems DSST last week because someone on Reddit asked for advice. The last time I took this one was over a decade ago, so I wanted to make sure I was giving the most up-to-date info. It's a good thing I did because it has changed quite a bit. I'm Justin with Free-Clep-Prep, and we've been helping people pass CLEPs and DSSTs for almost 2 decades now. When I first took the MIS DSST, it was famous for using outdated terminology. Much like the old Information Systems CLEP, that made it harder for most people than it needed to be because, after all, when was the last time you used a teletype machine? That's not to say this test was on the cutting edge of technology. Let's consider it about 5 years or so behind the times. I didn't see any AI questions, for example, but there were questions dealing with cloud computing and some of the more recent languages. Aside from that, just stick to the usual IT hardware and software, and you'll be fine for this one. I would know the different grades of computers, such as personal, mini or mainframe, and supercomputers. Know the different components of a computer, such as the CPU, what primary storage is and how RAM works, and secondary storage and the difference between HDD, SSD, flash drives, NAS or network attached storage. You don't need to go too granular, like I wouldn't expect questions on what the north bridge of a motherboard does, but you do need to understand how data gets around, what components are responsible for graphics, data retention, input and output. Know what BIOS and CMOS are, and how they interact with the operating system. That leads us into software, so you'll need to know the difference between over-the-counter and open source, what a GUI is, and how software is created. You don't need to know how to program, but you should understand the very basics, such as what object-oriented programming means, what makes a language higher or lower level, how compiling works. You may get questions of some simple concepts like if-then-else statements or loops such as for and do while. Again, you won't get asked to write any code, it's just seeing if you can figure out what the code is doing. This kind of stuff can look scary, but here's just a quick example. This is just saying that if the CLEP score is greater than 50, then print I passed, else print try again. A do-while loop just does the same thing over again until the condition is met. In this case, we're checking CLEP score and adding 10 each time the loop runs. While CLEP score is less than 50, do add 10 and the loop continues. Once it hit 50, the loop stops and it prints you passed. Simple stuff. I would know what software development lifecycle is and what each step consists of. If a piece of software has a bug after deployment, where does fixing that fall into the SDLC? Understanding the different methodologies for software like Agile or Waterfall, and what a sprint is. The same goes for SQL commands. SQL stands for Structured Query Language and is used for database management. You may see an example of a SQL query that looks like this. This is just saying to select or show us everything in the score table where the value in the score column is more than 50. Relational databases can use tables to organize the data into columns and rows like a spreadsheet. I would know a few other types of databases, but I would expect most of your database questions to be related to SQL. However, speaking of data, know the difference between data and information, understand redundancy, normalization, data dictionaries, data warehouses, data marts, and data mining. Data security is a big one as well. Know the laws that protect data, like the Privacy Act of 1974, the Sarbanes-Oxley Act, Gramm-Leach-Bliley Act. Know how disaster recovery works to safeguard data. Networking is also probably going to show up. It used to be a huge part of this exam, but it seems like that's changed. I would know how Wi-Fi works at least on a basic level, what bandwidth is, mesh networks, intranets, SEO, HTTP, TCP/IP, LMNOP. Just kidding on that last one. We've got all that and more in the networking chapter of our free study guide. Just go through and hit the ones that you don't know. All that covers the information systems part of the test, but now let's talk about the management section. The number of business-related questions often catches people by surprise, especially those who thought this was just going to be about IT. First, let's talk about systems. Executive support systems, what they do, who uses them. Knowledge management systems, what's the difference between tacit and explicit knowledge and how they're used. Decision support systems, identity management systems, customer relation systems, content management systems, transaction processing systems, enterprise support systems, supply chain management systems, and electric document management systems. Know your systems. Lastly, project management. I would know the different phases of a project, what makes a SMART goal, SMART, what a project scope refers to, how to use PERT and Gantt charts, and how the critical path method works. Personally, I love this exam. The mix of business and IT is great because it's what I've been doing for most of my adult career. If you have a similar background, you're probably going to be fine with minimal study. If you've got the IT background but not the business background, it's easy enough to pick up within a few days what you need. If you're coming into this with little or no IT experience, I would spend some time reading up on everything. It's just a lot of stuff to keep straight if you're brand new to it. I have no doubt you can do this. Just try to group it together when you're studying. Our free study guide does that for you with all the networking topics together, the database management, project management, and so on. Read up on all that, then use the free flashcards to really drill the knowledge until you get it. And remember, we do have a link at the bottom of each flashcard that will pull up the topic summary, so if you run into something you don't know, just just click that and read up. If you're in a huge hurry, we have a quick prep bundle for this exam. It comes with more full-length practice tests, smaller bite-sized summaries with audio so you can listen on the go, spaced repetition flashcards, personalized study guides, and a bunch of other stuff to get you ready in hours rather than weeks. That'll be free for the few days after this video drops, so if you plan on taking this in the next few months, grab access while it's free. Help me test it out. I try to do these videos and quick prep bundles for every CLEP and DSST out there, so if you don't see one for an exam you plan on taking, drop me a comment below and I'll move that one up to the top of my list. Hit the bell and subscribe to get notified when more videos are released. Until then, I wish you the best on all of your exams. Go get those credits. We're cheering for you. Bye.